Alright, hey everyone, Ben Tate here again for CG Tuts, and before we get going on this tutorial, let's just talk a little bit about what we're doing. As you would have already seen in the preview images and description, we're going to be modeling this Bosch Tassimo T-65 home brewing station. And you might be thinking, why the hell did I choose this to do as a tutorial topic? And there's a couple of reasons for it. It looks very simple. The body is pretty simple and everything, but this is actually a really complicated thing to model using just poly modeling techniques. This will kind of be not a continuation of my previous iPhone tutorial that I did last time, and you can find that over at CG Tuts. If you click on my name or you just search iPhone, you'll come up with this one. And this was also a product rendering and modeling tutorial here. But this Tassimo is going to be quite a bit harder for us to model. It has a lot more detail. We have some really complex curves on it, and it's going to be quite a challenge to get all this stuff modeled in. This will definitely be an advanced level modeling tutorial, so if you're just starting out Max, this might not be the best project to tackle up front. You might want to start with something a little bit more simple. I'll walk you through it step by step, but it is going to be pretty lengthy, and it is going to be quite difficult for us to get a good level of detail on this model, as well as proper smoothing. Okay, so again, if you're just starting out, you might want to start with something a little bit more simple. Okay, so before we get going here, let me just close this up. I did take some reference pictures here, just quickly, of my actual one. I own it, so that was another reason I chose to do it for the tutorial, just so I could get in there and it's always easier if you have something physically in front of you to use as a reference model, or at least to get some good pictures from, or whatever. So I'll be including a set of reference pictures for this here, and I've taken quite a few of them of all the components. So we'll be using these as we go along, just to see the finer details. Okay, and another thing, I'm just going to show you the original model that I created up front here before I'm starting to do the tutorial. I've already gone through this once and figured out the best way to build the model, which is something I usually always do before I do a tutorial. Okay, so here I have the model that I ended up with after my test run. Okay, and you can see it's pretty complicated. We have a lot of different parts here, a lot of different elements, and it's going to take us quite a while to get through all of this. Okay, so we have some kind of complex curves here on the front. All these pieces fit together, but they also all curve in different directions, which is always something that's difficult. We also have some complex cuts that we have to make up underneath here for screws, as well as some LED lights that we have in here, the spout. We have this drink tray at the bottom, or cup stand, which is made up of a couple of interlocking pieces. Some buttons there to screen. And around the back we have the most complex piece of the entire thing, and this is the water tank. It actually has interlocking water tanks, so we actually have two tanks that sit inside each other. And let me just break this down a bit. Okay, so we have a lid here that has some detail cut to the top. Okay, so that's got some pretty complex curves on it. I'll show you the other side of this here. Okay, you can see that we have some pretty complex geometry in here that we're going to need to cut in. Okay, and I'm just going to take this off for a second. Get rid of a couple of these pieces here just so I can show you the inside of the tank. Okay, so inside the tank here, we have a pretty complicated looking filter in the bottom here, and this actually sits in the inner tank that kind of floats inside the main tank. Okay, and again, we have a lot of pieces that make this up, a lot of components. Let me just get rid of the outer tank here, and this is actually the inner tank. Okay, so we're going to look at how to kind of use existing geometry to create new geometry, and figure out the best way to fit this stuff in here. And this also kind of rests on the body here. As you can see, we have some extrusions out that sits against. And for my test run here, I didn't actually model those in. We have a couple of pieces that actually come out of the surface here that these sit on, and I haven't actually done that yet for this test model. I just wanted to get the basic shape out of the way. Okay, so we have this, which I'll hide. We have the handle up here, which is made up of a couple pieces, and then we have the water filter here. And again, this is pretty complicated to model, and we have quite a bit of detail packed in there. Okay, now we also have the lower part here where the tank sits, And this has quite a bit of detail as well. We have another inner tank little piece there. That's a float net that sits into this hole. And then we have obviously over here where the water actually gets filtered into the system. Okay, so lots of complicated pieces, and it's going to take a lot of polygons to maintain this level of detail on this. Okay, we also have a pretty detailed cutout of the back there, as well as other components here. All right, so this is it. This is what we're going to be going for. And again, this is going to be quite difficult to model. It's going to be a pretty lengthy tutorial. I'm guessing at least probably 12 to 15 hours to model. We might be able to get it down a little bit less than that. Obviously the second time here I'm going to modeling, so it'll be a lot easier and faster for me to do than going through it the first time. And unfortunately I couldn't find a set of blueprints for these, so this is pretty much just eyeballed off of my reference images, as well as looking at the real unit in front of me. Okay, so let's just get back into our clean scene here and we'll start working on this. Okay, and for the tutorial I used the model here to render out a set of really quick blueprints that we can kind of have in the viewport, just to block out some shapes against. That's going to be a lot easier for everyone to follow rather than just trying to eyeball it in free space like this. So we'll just take a look at those quickly. Okay, so that's our reference. I'm just going to close that up. Alright, let's close that. Let's get rid of that. And these prints will be available at the top of the page on CG free to download. Okay, and I'm only going to do a front and a side here, not 4-view or 6-view prints. The reason for that is because I rendered them out of max with this wireframe over top, and we do have some distortion from the camera lens in max, some lens distortion on that. Alright, so it's actually bloating out the model a little bit, and you can see that we're not looking straight on from the side here. I got it as close as I could, but unfortunately it just really doesn't work perfect for blueprints. But just these two views here will give us enough reference so we can get the shape correct, and that's really the most important thing, is just getting this body shape correct. Once we have that banged out, the other components are fairly easy to fit in there. Okay, so grab these as well as reference pictures, which will be at the top of the page on CG Tuts, and we'll just get started here. Okay, so let's get started. And before we get going, let's go into our customize menu here. And if we go down to unit setup, I'm just going to use generic max units to create this. So I'm not going to use real world scale. Again, because those blueprints are just off of my original model that I just eyeballed, I really don't have the actual measurements. You could probably track them down if you really wanted to be precise, but again, for the tutorial, it's not like we're throwing this model into a commercial or something that has to be, accurate to like the millimeter. All right, so we're just going to do it generic. Alright, and if you set that up to generic units, or it'll default to generic units, you'll be able to type in the same values I'm entering, and everything should match up correctly. Another thing, if I go down here to preferences, over to the gamma and LUT tab, I do have gamma correction enabled here, as well as on the color selectors and the material editor. Okay, and if you notice that my material editor will look a little bit brighter than yours, that's the reason, because I have these turned on. And you can just enable that if you want, or if you don't want to, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to affect this part of the tutorial. Okay, so let's get going, and the first thing we'll do is just grab our blueprints and just throw those in here. So let's go over to the create panel, we'll grab plane. I'm just going to draw this out in the front view. Alright, we'll center it up there, and let's just actually right click on the move tool, right click on the spinners here, and we'll just zero everything out to the world. Okay, let's hit Z here to zoom back on that. I'm also going to get rid of these grids quickly, so we'll just hit G in each viewport. And these selection brackets are a real pain in the ass in Max 12. They have a glitch in here, so if you turn them off with J on the keyboard, or even up in the menu, if you change views or change to a different display mode, they keep coming back on, as you can see there. When I went from wireframe to shaded, they come back, and that's really annoying. Unfortunately, I haven't found a way to permanently fix it, so we're kind of stuck with those, and you'll probably hear me complaining about that more later on as we get going. Alright, so we have our plane here. And the first thing I'm going to do is just name it so we can keep everything organized. It's always a good idea to name all your stuff. Alright, so let's call this print dash front. Alright, let's hit M here. We'll open up our material editor. I'm just going to grab a new slot here. And we'll go down to the diffuse channel here and choose bitmap for the map type. And again, grab those prints off of CG Tuts and just navigate to the folder, and you can just pick them here. Okay, so I want the front print first for the front view, obviously. And if you come down here at the bottom, you can see the size, 1332 by 1192. So we're just going to hit open, Assign that to the plane, show it to the viewport. And another thing we want to do is just take off our blur here. By default, every material or map in Max defaults to 1 blur. So we're just going to right click that spinner, take it down to 0.01 just to get rid of any blurring in the viewport. And you can see when we zoom in on that, it's not awesome quality. But again, we're not going to be modeling entirely off of these. We're just going to use it for the box out. Alright, so that's fine. In order to make sure that we have that the right size, we're going to have to come over here and set our plane to that dimension. And I forgot what it was, so let's just hit this again. And 1332 by 1192. So let's punch that in. 1332, 1192 on length. Okay, and I'll just make sure we don't have any distortion in that image. Okay, and let's also take off this realistic shading here so we don't have any shadowing. Just going to go down to shade it. Okay, so that's our front plane. Okay, now let's create the side one, and the side view is the exact same size, so we can just clone this plane. Let's go up to rotate here, turn on our angle snaps, and just hold down shift. I'm just going to rotate this 9 degrees, and we'll choose copy, and we'll name it print side, and okay. Let's zoom back a bit here so we can see what's going on. Alright, and now we'll just open up the material editor again by hitting M. Let's just copy our material over to a new slot. And let's also name this stuff just to keep it organized. We'll call it the same thing as we named the geometry, so print side and print front. Okay. Alright, so let's go over to the second material there, go back into the diffuse channel, and just go into the image, and we'll swap that with the second image, or the side view. Okay, and that should automatically assign to the plane. If not, just click it. Okay. Alright, I'm just going to go back to the 4 views here, and I have a keyboard shortcut set up for my viewport, so that's W, so I can minimize and maximize. You can do that by going down and hitting the button here in the corner. I believe the default shortcut for Max is Alt W to do that, but again, you can set that up to whatever you want, or you can just use the button down there to do it. Okay, so let's figure out where we want these. Okay, so we got our side view there, we got our front view. Let's get a spin over here. And we're going to move this back from the center mark here in the top view, just so we have some room to build the model in between these. Okay, so let's move this back on the Y. Let's drag it. And if you want to be precise, you can actually type it in down here. Let's do like 800 on the Y. Okay, that'll push it back a bit for us there. Grab the side plane, and we'll just move this over on the X. And again, if you want to be finicky, you can just do negative 800 on the X. Okay. And now that we have those set, let's just select both of them. I'm going to change that wire color to black. And we'll also right click on them with both selected, go down to Object Properties. Let's check on Backface Call here. Okay, and we'll also uncheck Show Frozen in Gray. And then we'll freeze these. Okay, and hit OK. So now we can't select those, we won't accidentally move anything. When we get the the geometry started, we might need to move them around a little bit just to line stuff up, but we can do that in a minute. If we come around the back now, you can see right through this because the backface call is on. Alright, so we're not going to see those the back polygons there. Alright, so we're ready to go here on the model. And we're just going to start this video really simple. As I mentioned earlier, the main part of the body here is the most important to get correct. Everything's going to be based off that as far as size and scale, so we want to make sure that we block this out and get the width as well as this curve correct right off the bat here. If we don't, it's going to screw up stuff later on. We're going to have to probably readjust it, and then it just makes things more complicated. It's always best to nail your first piece, at least for the block out, and that'll make everything easier to model later on. Okay. So let's go over to the create panel here where we'll grab a box and we'll go into the left view, or right view, sorry. And I'm just going to draw this out over the size and try to line it up here. Okay, don't worry too much about getting it perfect. Again, we do have some bloating on the image here. The sides of this are pretty much straight, but as you can see, it's curved out, so we're just going to ignore that. And we'll just convert this by right clicking to Editable Poly. Alright, let's go into Vertex. Grab those top 4 verts, okay, and we'll just move this up and line it up with the top here, and we'll pretty much do it around the center. Same thing at the bottom. Okay, and same thing on the front and back. We'll just line it up maybe with the top corner here, right about there, and same thing over here. Alright, so just up at the top corner there. And you can hit Alt X to go through to see through mode anytime. Alright, so it's going to line up, right about this edge here. Okay, so that's generally the size that we have. We'll do the exact same thing in the front view here. Let's grab these right side verts. Let's move those over, we'll line up around that corner there. And grab the other ones and just pull it over. Alright, so just stick it right about there. Okay, let's hit Alt X. Let's also turn off vertex there. I'm just going to change the color of this to black, and I'll put another shader on there so it's a little easier to look at. I'll just grab another slot, assign it to the box, and we'll just make that maybe a blue color. Okay, and there's those selection brackets again, so I'm just going to turn those off with J. Okay, and I think that's pretty much the correct size. If not, we'll tweak it later, but we'll start with this. Alright, so the first most important thing is to get those curves in before we start cutting in other details. Okay, so we'll go on to the front view. Let's go into edge. Make sure you have ignore back facing turned off and just drag right through those 4 edges. And we'll do a connect. And let's give this about 6 segments maybe. Should be enough so we can pull that detail. Okay, and then we'll just go into vertex and we'll just bend this by hand. We're not going to use a bend modifier on the verts. It'll be easier if we just tweak it manually. Okay, so I'm going to grab the verts there and I'm going to leave the top ones and the bottom ones. So we just have these center ones. Okay, I'm just going to pull this over on the X and try to line up the curve. Okay, I'm not going to go right to the edge. I'm just going to go a little bit in like that. Okay, we'll select these ones in the center, bring it out, and the 2 in the center. Okay, just like that. And again, it doesn't need to be exactly perfect with the blueprint, but try to get it somewhat close. Alright, so exact same thing over here. We can't use symmetry on this because the left side actually has less of a curve than the right, which is kind of strange, but that's the way they built it, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, so same thing here, we'll just move those over. Let's deselect those ones, deselect those ones. And let's continue to shape this out. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. I'm just wondering if we should move it over a little bit more. Let's just pull it right out to the edge. I don't like being able to see that right there. It just doesn't look right to me. Okay, so I'm just going to move that over. Move these back a bit. I don't want it to be too bloated out in the center. We want to have a nice curve there. Let's do the same thing over here by grabbing these verts. And we'll just line it up at the edge for now. Later on, you can always adjust that if we need to. Alright, so that's good enough. And I'm not a big fan of the see-through view here. It's kind of hard to see actually through it. So let's do something else here. I'm just going to go down to the time configuration box here at the bottom, and we'll click that and open it up. If it opens for us, there it goes. Alright, we'll just right-click the lane spinner here, which will set the frames to 2. Hit OK. And we'll just animate this material here so we can kind of make our own transparent material. Okay, so at the first frame here at the bottom, we're just going to turn on auto key. We'll set a keyframe there. Let's move the slider over to the second frame. And we're going to change the opacity on the material here to probably like 15%. Okay, and then we'll set a keyframe there, turn off auto key. Okay, so what that did, let's animate that material between the first and second frame. So if we hit the period and comma keys, we can just flip between the 2 frames at the bottom there, and that'll let us toggle that see-through on. If you want to be a little bit more shaded there, you can just turn up the opacity on the second frame, maybe like 25. Okay, now I'll give you a little bit more of a surface there to see. Okay, so that's a little bit better than the normal see-through. If you like it, go for it. You don't need to use that technique if you don't want to. But yeah, let's just get on this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is probably add some edges here so we can cut out the cylindrical part where this sits in the front. Okay, and again, it's going to be a little tricky, but let's ring this front edges here. And let's just go into the front view, toggle that see-through on, and let's do a connect here with one segment. Okay, and let's just straighten that out. We want to do that on the X, I think. Nope. Let's do the Y. Nope. Let's do Z. There we go. Okay, so that'll straighten that edge out, and we'll just move this over and line it up right about here. Okay, same thing again. Grab those edges, make sure you have ignore back facing turned off, and hit connect and Z, and let's move that over. Okay, so that's where we'll chop out that center void right between these edges here. And to make this as easy as possible, let's maybe do something here just so we have, you know, kind of a shape to work with. I don't want to delete out these polygons right now. We're going to need to do quite a bit of work back here. So let's do something else. Let's maybe temporarily create something for that drink tray there. Let's go into the crate panel. Let's maybe grab a cylinder here. And back in the front view, just going to go to wireframe F3. I'm just going to draw out the cylinder in the center here between those two edges we just put in. Okay, we'll give it a little bit of height, and we'll just kind of center this up. Okay, that looks pretty good. And let's also rotate it. So I'm going to go rotate. Make sure you have your angle snaps on. We'll just rotate that back up 90 degrees. Okay, and then we'll just move it down a bit. Okay, we're just going to kind of use this to chop out some polygons here temporarily. Alright, so I'm just going to move that forward here, and we'll just figure out the size. Let's also maybe move it up a bit so we can see it. And we'll also give it a cap segment on there. We can get rid of these height segments, we don't need those. Okay. And we don't want to bring it all the way to the front here. We want to have it pushed in a bit before it starts actually, you know, curving around the back. Again, this is only a temporary piece. We'll probably create the actual back part later on out of the drink tray. Alright, so we're going to do something like that, and I think 18 sides should be good for this. Yeah, I think that should work. Alright, so let's convert this to a poly. Go over to polygon, and let's delete the front half. Okay, so let's delete that out. And let's also delete everything in the center. Okay, we only want that outer, those outer polygons on the back. Okay, so select everything there. Make sure you don't have the side one selected. Okay, just those, then delete them. Okay, and let's just stretch this out a bit. So back in the front view, back to vertex. We're just going to pull this down to the bottom. I'm just going to line that up with the bottom edge, and the same thing at the top. Bring that down and line those up. Okay. Okay, and although this isn't symmetrical side to side, it is symmetrical top to bottom. So what that means is we can actually do half of this. Let's grab the center edge. Let's grab this piece first. Select the center edge here. We're going to do a ring, and let's connect it up with one segment right in the center, so no pinch, no slide, and okay. And then we're going to go to vertex, and we're going to grab everything below that edge and delete it. Okay. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is we're just going to kind of roughly shape this hole out of the main body here. Okay, so in the top view, let's actually make sure that we're looking at this the right way. Just want to make sure I can see it. So let's turn off edge there. We're just going to move this up. Okay, and let's turn off that realistic shading. Okay, so we're going to select the body here. And let's go over to cut. Let's go up to snaps and right click. And we just want to check off vertex snapping here. Okay, so check that off, uncheck everything else, close that up, and then turn on snaps. Okay, that's going to snap your cut to the verts on that cylinder, which is what we want. Alright, so let's just cut this quickly. I'm just going to start right here. Okay, it's not actually touching up that edge there, but that's okay, we'll fix that in a second. So we're just going to start there, and we're going to trace just around this. Okay, clicking on each of those verts on the cylinder. Okay, we'll finish off right there, right click to end it. And obviously right now it's a bit of a mess, so let's just grab this. Let's turn off snaps too. We'll hide this. Okay, we have our cut there on the box. Obviously it looks like crap right now, so let's fix it up. And to that we're going to need to add another edge loop here, and there's those damn selection brackets again. Okay, so I'm going to grab an edge on each side and do a ring. Okay, and we'll deselect this guy here. We don't want to have that selected. We just want those side edges. So let's do another connect. And as you can see, we can't slide that down. It's going to go both ways. So let's maybe zero that out. Hit OK to it, and we'll just manually drag this edge down. And we want to line this up with that first vert from the cylinder. Okay, this one here. That'll give us a little point so we can, weld that over in a second. Alright, so let's turn off edge there. And let's see if we can just target weld this over. So I'm going to go to Vertex, down to target weld this one to this one. And it's not going to let you do that actually because we have a polygon in there. So what we need to do is actually connect them up first. So let's grab those and we'll hit connect to cut an edge across there. Same thing over here. Grab those two and connect. And back to target weld and just weld that outer vert to the inner one. And the same thing over here. This one to this one. Alright, then I'll get rid of that little triangle polygon there, and it'll also allow us to delete this out. Okay, so now we'll go to polygon, grab all these front polygons as well as the top one. Okay, just like that, and delete. Okay, we can also probably get rid of this edge right now, we don't need it. So I'm going to remove that temporarily. Okay, and let's see, let's just make sure we're not missing welds here. So I'm just going to grab these verts and see if there's only one, and we only have one there, which is good. Same thing over on this side. Okay, so those are welded up. And also, I think we'll just maybe pull this down. Yeah, let's just maybe pull it down for now. Alright, so I'm going to grab an edge here, and let's just select this in the top. We won't be able to loop this because these are end guns here. Alright, so the loop won't work. So we're just going to manually select these edges along the cylinder part. Okay. And we'll grab these ones here at the top as well on each side. And actually, let's not grab those ones. Let's deselect that one, deselect this one. We'll do those ones in a minute. Alright, so let's hold down shift, and with the move tool, we're just going to drag that down and extrude that edge on the z-axis. Go into the front view and just pull that up and line up with that bottom edge. Okay. And now we'll just add some segments to this piece here. And before we do that, let's actually do a symmetry on this. Okay, so back in the front view, I'm just going to center the pivot on this box. So hierarchy tab, effect pivot, centered object, turn off the button. Okay, we actually want that to be down at the bottom of that pivot point, so let's actually just do it where it's at. We're not really centered here on our model, so I'm not going to snap that down there. I'm just going to leave it there for a second. We'll just adjust the mirror on the symmetry. Okay, so let's go over and put on a symmetry modifier. We'll find it in our list here. Where is it? There it is. Okay, and we want to do this on the y-axis, but we need to move that mirror down so we're getting it displayed correctly. Okay, so we'll go into the symmetry modifier, expand that down, go to mirror, and just move the mirror down. Okay. And we'll just push this up until these two pieces intersect. Okay, and you just want to overlap it a little bit so that that welds up. Okay, and you can take off weld seam there to make sure that it welds. Okay, so now that's back on. That'll give us those bottom polygons. And we'll just right click and convert this to editable poly to get rid of that symmetry modifier. Okay. And now we don't need the center edge anymore that we cut in there to cut it in half. Okay, and that's still selected when we go to edge, so I'm just going to do control backspace. Okay, that'll take out the edges as well as the verts. Alright, now all we need to do is just close this up quickly. Alright, so let's grab one of these edges here. Around that cylindrical part, we'll do a ring. Okay, that's only going to come up to here, obviously, because this is an open polygon. But what we need to do here is add segments so we can match it up with these ones here. Okay, so we know we added 6 on the original box, so we can add 6 segments here. Okay, so let's open up Connect, take that up to 6, and hit OK. Alright, and this will give us bridge points here so that we can actually close this up. If you'd like, you can do a border cap and then just connect the verts, but bridge should work fine. Alright, so let's bridge that top one for a second, see if it works. Okay, we don't have any missed welds. Same thing down at the bottom here. Just bridge that up, and then we'll just loop these two edges here. And just make sure that we don't have those bottom ones there selected. So I'm just going to deselect these two and the top two. Okay, so just around that open hole, and then let's hit bridge. Alright, that'll close that side up. And on this side, now we can do the same thing where I'll just show you the border technique. We'll just go to border there, select the open hole. Okay, hit cap. And then go into vertex, and we'll just go to our select tool here. I'm just going to hold down control and grab these verts and hit connect. Okay, I actually have a keyboard shortcut set up for connect, so I'm just going to use that so it's a little quicker. So I'm just going to select one pair of verts at a time and connect them up. Okay. Everything's nice and sexy now, so we're good to move on. Now obviously we have a giant, end gun right here. I'm not going to worry about that because later on we're going to have to cut in the top door that fits into this piece, and then we're also going to have to plow in the back over here. So this top geometry, it's just temporary. We'll probably end up cutting most of this inside part out anyways to fit in that actual cup holder piece there, or the T-disc holder. Okay, so that's our box out so far, and we're looking good. Still got a hell of a long way to go, but that's okay.